freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And Trump doesn't understand that. And so now taking out people who make fun of a politician to serve that up on a silver platter to Trump, no way, disgusting.
I think I disagree with you. Like the more I sit with what he said and the more I think about it, look, guys, I mean, you have to consider, even if you loathe Charlie Kirk, put your shoes in the shoes of conservatives who saw one of their, top influencers, someone who had a tremendous amount of clout on the right wing, he gets assassinated. And so to make a declarative statement and pin the blame on the very people who are grieving the loss of Charlie Kirk before you have any evidence is, it's offensive, it's irresponsible. The vanguard will be there, sir. And I should note the decision also comes as Nexstar, comes as the broadcast station is seeking FCC approval for its $6.2 billion mega deal to acquire Tegna, a deal that would make Nexstar by far the largest owner of local TV stations in the country. So, those mergers be calling, Cenk. So, but I'm curious what you think about Kimmel's statements, because I do think Kimmel is feeding into, not only were his statements inaccurate, it feeds into this partisan brain rot that's fueling a lot of unrest in this country. What do you think?
Yeah, so a bunch of
the most innocuous joke of all time is fueling the partisan brain rot of this country. You know who fueled the partisan brain rot of this country? Charlie fucking Kirk. How about you acknowledge that, Anna? Not a single time in your bloviating fucking gaslighting, your never-ending fucking eulogy for this monster, are you going to acknowledge the fact that he divided this fucking country, that he created the conditions for his own fucking murder to occur in? This barbaric fucking savage state of affairs that we're in. He helped pave the way for that. Not Jimmy Kimmel making some stupid innocuous joke. What the fuck is this? It's so fucking crazy to say.
Important clarification. First of all, so it's not ABC that's doing it. It's Nexstar that owns the local TV stations, right? So number two, so on what Jimmy Kimmel said. So was it wrong? Yes. So what do I think is allowed and not allowed? It's not even allowed. It's just what should you do and not do in a situation like that. Now we're sitting there for 3-4 days with no information on who the shooter is, what their motive was, etc. If you say no speculation is allowed, what, everybody's just gonna sit around silent for 4 days? We will wait for the official government position. We are not at all curious. We will not talk about it. No, that's an unreasonable standard. Nobody's gonna do that. And by the way, if you're in the right wing, you really want to get canceled over speculation after a shooting or any other major event? The right wing in my lifetime has done massive speculation about who it could be, etc. I'm not saying the left wing does it, right? I'm just saying that it's a thing that happens. It's normal, it's human, etc.
I remember the fucking Sandy Hook shooting. Remember all the theories about that coming from the likes of Alex Jones. I remember fucking hours and hours of speculation after the Las Vegas shooting. Tons of people had lots of conspiracies concerning that. I mean, literally every fucking shooting for the longest time was a conspiracy theory for right wingers, that this was planned by Obama as an excuse to take our guns. That's the level of fucking idiocy I grew up with my entire fucking life, hearing every time there was a tragedy before the fucking bodies even went cold. I had to hear a million times about how this was a fucking psyop for Obama to take our guns, which never fucking happened. But now you can't make an innocuous joke about a piece of shit like Charlie Kirk getting gunned down. Oops.
Yeah, and as much as I've dragged Cenk for his positioning in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's killing, I do appreciate him, laying this out the way he does in this segment.
Now, at the same time, should you make, if you're on television, you're in media, should you make definitive statements before you know? No,
he did it.
Of course not. But okay, so that's why if Jimmy Kimmel was not a comic and he was ABC's news anchor and he said, yes, that's right, Tyler Robinson was MAGA, you'd go, whoa, what are you doing? The authorities haven't even come out yet with anything. Why are you stating that definitively? So that would definitely be wrong. Now we move to, okay, so should they have taken him off the air? Well, brother, he's not a news anchor. He's a comic. It was the setup to a joke. It was inaccurate. So what would I do if I was running the station? I'd talk to Kimmel and I'd say, you get that that's wrong, right? I know, it was a setup to a joke. I know, and it's not, you're not, Walter Cronkite, you're doing comedy here.
And even this is fence-sitting bullshit from Cenk. He didn't say that he was definitively MAGA. And also, yes, you're correct. He is a comic. So what did he do? He came out and trolled Donald Trump and said, hey, it looks like you're really struggling with the fact that your guy got whacked. You're so concerned about your $200 million new ballroom renovations, right? That's all he said. And that the right wing was at no point willing to consider that he might have been one of their own, even though he was a gun-toting, MAGA-raised Utah Mormon.
And by the way, I could have come out, if I had a show like Jimmy Kimmel, I could have come out here and made the same fucking joke about the left because we were doing the same shit. We were also sitting here parsing through all the information, trying to, make the case that he's not one of us. Maybe he's a groiper. Maybe he fucking, turned on Charlie Kirk, but he used to love Charlie Kirk. We were also fucking doing that. But to act like MAGA wasn't during those 48 hours when no one knew who the fucking shooter was and what his ideological affiliation. Yeah, of course, everyone was trying to make the case that this was the other team. That is accurate. That's not a fucking, definitive statement or whatever. And obviously it's a joke, so who fucking cares?
But still, it might give people the wrong idea. So I don't even want you saying it definitively in a joke. And then my guess is Kimmel would go, oh, you're right, I get it. We shouldn't have done that, right? And maybe even puts out a statement, not like groveling or anything, but like, hey, our bad, we didn't know then definitively, and it turns out it's this, right? I wouldn't take him off the air. Now, why wouldn't I take him off the air? Because Trump is going around going, I got Colbert, now I want Kimmel. We're gonna cancel all of them. They better not criticize me. And in the context of that, now you take Kimmel off after CBS took Colbert off. And CBS took him off while they were trying to prove a merger. Now next starts taking Kimmel off while they're trying to prove a merger. This looks terrible, and it is terrible. And by the way, as we talked about on Tucker Carlson's show last night, and we've talked about in every context here, if there's one thing that Charlie Kirk stood for, it was freedom of speech. Now, if you're on the left, you say, oh, I don't really believe that he meant to, et cetera. It doesn't matter, guys. That was his defining issue, and the right wing 100% believes that.
His defining issue was being a giant piece of fucking bloviating shit. I'm just gonna take me to fucking Guantanamo Bay, take me to alligator Alcatraz. I volunteer. His definitive issue was being a giant bloviating sack of fucking shit.
That is his defining issue. And I think, look, was he perfect on that? No. Did I, again, we'll say it for the 1,000th time. Did we disagree with him on a whole host of issues? Yes, right? But did he fight for freedom of speech for his side? But obviously freedom of speech is not a thing you do for just the right or the left. So for all of America, yeah, that's what he was known for.
If Charlie Kirk were alive today and it were Ben Shapiro that had been assassinated, he would be cheerleading to all fuck every single fucking free speech suppressive policy that Donald Trump would put forward. I guarantee fucking to you. This man wasn't principled at all. And this is the other thing. People act like it's so righteous that he went and fucking debated a bunch of college kids, right? I mean, come on. He was doing, as Gavin pointed out the other day, he was doing literal recruitment, right? It was an afterthought to have these people actually coming up and debating him. What he really wanted to do was fundraise and enlist people in his Turning Point USA Nazi fucking youth recruitment.
100%. And that's the point that we were making yesterday. All these people, Cenk and Anna included, it's not just right wingers, it's fucking progressives, so-called progressives that should know better, that are painting this false, historically ahistorical fucking portrait of Charlie Kirk, that he was like the Johnny Appleseed of debate, that he was on a mission to unite the country by going from town to town and spreading discourse, just setting up a stall and talking to anyone who would come his way, just like how Plato and Aristotle used to sit at the town square, just trying to hash out the issues of the day and talk philosophy. That was Charlie Kirk. Like, it's such a fucking bullshit, ahistorical, revisionist fucking piece of garbage lie. They really want you to think that this guy was just trying to heal the country, that he was like just on a mission to unite us all. And that's why he was doing what he was doing, and not to enrich himself and to spread fascist propaganda and to recruit for the Republican Party. That was the point. So at least be honest about it. And again, obviously that doesn't mean that he deserved to die. I'm not saying that. But let's not fucking be dishonest. Let's not be ahistorical when we talk about his legacy and what he did.
Oh yeah, in what other circumstance would talking about somebody who was killed, right, and being honest about them, would you say, oh, so you think he should have been fucking killed? Like, obviously that's a straw man. That's just a ridiculous, absurd, hyperbolic acceleration of the argument to go ahead and, tear down somebody and not actually grapple with the truth of the matter, which is, while this guy was alive, he was a white supremacist, he was a Christian nationalist, and he was a bad person.
That's what he was most known for. So if your reaction is, because you stated something incorrect in a quarter of a joke, I'm gonna take your speech away. That's what Charlie would have wanted. No, you're making things up, okay? And I know they didn't say that. To be perfectly accurate, they didn't say that's what Charlie would have wanted, right? They're saying in this context, in our communities, blah,
even
blah.
though I disagree, I will say this, even though I disagree to the extent to which Charlie Kirk was a champion of free speech and all this shit, I actually do agree that Charlie Kirk himself would not have wanted this to happen as a result of his passing in his name. Like, as vile as Charlie Kirk was, the dude did have, it's still his fucking profile picture, hilariously, the South Park, caricature of him from a couple weeks before his passing. He actually took that joke well. He didn't start demanding that South Park get canceled. Again, he leaned into the joke. He made it his profile picture. So when they pulled that South Park episode, a lot of conservatives pointed that out, and they were like, you know what, say what you will about Charlie Kirk, but he wouldn't have wanted that. And again, I don't think that Charlie Kirk's legacy should be that he was this promoter of free speech, but I do think that even someone as vile as Charlie Kirk wouldn't want his death used in this just blatantly censorious, kind of authoritarian way to go after guys like Jimmy Kimmel. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know. And I'm not just trying to be obtuse and not say anything nice about Charlie Kirk, but I really do believe that if this had been Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro or another one of those guys that had gotten assassinated, that he wouldn't have been like, I'm drawing a line in the sand. This is not what they would want their legacies to be used for. I'm a real free speech guy. Like, he would be talking, like, I think he would be celebrating the labeling of Antifa as a terror organization. I think that he would be cheerleading, the fact that, that we're now going to have responsible television on late night again. I really think that there's a good chance that this guy, would roll over on it. And I agree. You have to point out he was a good sport about the South Park thing. The producer from his show came out and was like, hey, please put that episode back up. Charlie loved it. So if you want to respect his wishes, it should stay out there, right? So I agree that if it were him personally, maybe. But I also think if it was one of his colleagues, he would be fanning the flames of the censorship campaign just like they are.
Yeah, that's fair.
Blah, blah. But in essence, that's what you're doing here. And I think it sucks. I think it's bad for the country. It's bad for free speech. And I'm tired of Trump and the right wing. Look, Kirk, I would argue, was principled enough on free speech. Trump has not been at all. Not close.
And who did Charlie support every single day of his fucking life for the last 9 years?
Yeah, that's the other thing is people keep saying like, oh, like you can't blame Charlie for things that Trump stood for. Yes, you fucking can. Yes, you fucking can. Like the other day, and again, I'm not trying to give too much shit to Ryan Grimm because I really like Ryan Grimm. He's literally one of the best reporters right now. Dropside is doing amazing work when it comes to Palestine and stuff like that. But he was talking about how like, oh, Charlie Kirk, he wasn't one of the J6 guys. Like he didn't support that. He didn't support the insurrection. It's like, bro, he supported the insurrectionist. He helped reelect the treasonous fucking dude who did the insurrection. So yeah, maybe he said like some nice fucking polite thing like a week after the Capitol got fucking obliterated by meth heads. Maybe he was like, I don't support that. But then if you fucking help reelect the guy who orchestrated that treasonous plot, then yeah, I think it's fair to say you support that you're also an insurrectionist. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. It's the same shit. Like Jerry Moran, for example, who's a guy I happen to have some experience with. He's the senator from Kansas. He's a Republican, and he'll always do the show. I was so offended by January 6th. My wife cried that day when they behaved that way on the chat. And then he went and doggedly did everything that Donald Trump fucking wanted him to do, and endorsed him for president again in 2024. So it's like, I don't give a fuck what fake standards you pretend to selectively impose on people.
Yep. Also, this is a great point too. That unfortunately, I hate to say, Ryan Grimm totally, breezed over. Charlie Kirk literally organized buses to go to the J6 insurrection. He was 100% insurrectionist. And people were like, Ryan, again, I'm not trying to go after Ryan, but Ryan was saying like, oh, well, they didn't know it was going to turn into an insurrection. They didn't know it was going to turn into January 6th. Bro, what the fuck do you think that march was for? They were going there to contest the results of a free and fair election in which the people decided that Donald Trump was not to be reelected. Those people were going to protest a Democratic result. The fuck do you think it was?
Yeah, play the tapes of people like Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, and Donald Trump himself in the buildup to J6, and you knew exactly what the fuck was going to go down that day.
Within a million miles of close. And in fact, right after Charlie Kirk died, Bondi and Trump backed her up, said, oh yeah, hate speech, anything. And Trump even said to a reporter from ABC, oh, you're questioning me? That's hate speech. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's a reporter doing his job. That's part of the First Amendment, freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And Trump doesn't understand that. And so now taking out people who make fun of a politician to serve that up on a silver platter to Trump, no way, disgusting.
Again, shout out to Cenk. I have to say that was appropriate. We can nitpick it as we did. We always will. But yeah, that was an appropriate response. It met the moment. It was properly, condemnatory or whatever the fuck, right? I was genuinely shocked by what you're going to hear from Anna in the rest of this segment. I was even, telling Zach last night when the news about Jimmy Kimmel broke that there's no way Cenk and Anna will defend this. Because Zach was like, I don't know, bro. Do you think Cenk and Anna are going to defend this? I was like, nope, no way. Absolutely not. There's no fucking way Cenk and Anna defend this. And I was right about half. I was half right. Cenk did not. I can't believe what you're going to hear from Anna Kasparian, guys.
Yeah, I was cooking dinner last night and I was like, let me throw the Young Turks on, see if they react to the breaking news. And I'm listening to Cenk and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, this isn't worth reacting to. Once we got here, I was like, I had to send this shit to Gavin.
I think I disagree with you. Like, the more I sit with what he said and the more I think about it, look, guys, I mean, you have to consider, even if you loathe Charlie Kirk, put your shoes in the shoes of conservatives.
Put your shoes
who saw
in the
one
shoes.
Of their.
Put your shoes in the shoes of conservatives. No, I think I'm good. I think I'm fucking good. And by the way, you already see what the fuck is happening. We could end the clip right here. You see where this is going. You know exactly what she's gonna say. Just fucking disgusting state propaganda. And she's at a real crossroads, as we all are as media people, but specifically Anna, because she's obviously in a way higher echelon. She actually has access to establishment platforms like CNN. She is at a crossroads, much like a lot of her colleagues right now. Are you going to be courageous and tell the truth? Or are you going to keep getting opportunities on CNN, which, by the way, is about to get bought up by fucking Larry Ellison or whatever the fuck his name is? Am I going to keep going on ABC, which is, Disney? Am I going to keep getting opportunities to go on mainstream media? Or am I going to tell the truth? She's at a crossroads, and I think we all know where she's coming down on that question.
Top influencers, someone who had a tremendous amount of clout on the right wing, he gets assassinated. And so to make a declarative statement and pin the blame on the very people who are grieving the loss of Charlie Kirk before you have any evidence it's offensive.
He also did not pin the blame. He said they are looking at everyone else besides their own toxic movement. That was totally true. And the people who I've seen trying to they'll be like, no, we already knew he was a leftist. Didn't you see what the Utah governor? Yeah, liar Utah governor said, debunked talking points from Utah governor. Okay. That was all the information that was out there. So Jimmy Kimmel was 100% within his right to suggest that we have no idea what the motivations of that shooter were. I would still argue we have no real idea of the true motivations of the shooter. I'm hoping it'll come out at trial, right? But to say that he definitively said something that he did not definitively say is the exact kind of inaccuracy that you're supposedly dogpiling him for.
Yeah, I mean, so far all we know about the shooter is that he is against hate. That's what he said in the note. Charlie Kirk was putting out hate. That's why I'm going to kill him. So to say that makes him a leftist is basically an admission that the right wing it doesn't care about hate. That's basically an admission that all right wingers spread hate, and none of them want to stop hate. That's where the analysis goes. Now, obviously, I do at this point think the kid was probably more on the left than the right. It does seem like probably he was reacting to the oppressive, MAGA politics of his family. He probably did become a little bit more left wing. That's my opinion. But yeah, based on what we have so far, he was just someone who was against hate and potentially had a partner in the LGBT community, right? That doesn't necessarily make you a right winger. Theoretically, I think right wingers would also say that they're against hate.
People who are grieving the loss of Charlie Kirk before you have any evidence it's offensive. It's irresponsible. I get that he's a comic, so I guess we should hold him to a lower standard, I guess. But my problem with it is it keeps feeding into that divide. And it's all about oh no, it's your fault. It's the left's fault. It's the right's fault. It's just like this endless race to the bottom over which party sucks more.
Do you know who is the president right now, Anna? Hello? You in there, McFly? Anybody home? Do you know who is running the country right now?
Yeah, and do you know who the fuck you're talking about in Charlie Kirk? You don't want to talk about people that divided the country professionally. That's all Charlie Kirk fucking did. He literally, it was the divider in chief, putting out the most insane, disgusting, bigoted talking points, literally spreading lies about how it was the trans community who was responsible for the majority of school shootings and violence in this country. That's what he was spending his fucking final weeks doing. His final weeks on this earth were spent spreading lies about how the trans community is responsible for more school shootings than any other community. That was his fucking legacy. And now you want to come out and act like Jimmy Kimmel is divisive and partisan brain rot or whatever because he made a fucking mild joke.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Nancy Mace out here tweeting that Ilhan Omar is like sympathetic with ISIS and like loves the Muslim Brotherhood, is basically trying to campaign for another murder attempt. I learned this the other day, Gavin. Did you know that multiple people are in jail right now for plotting to kill Ilhan Omar?
I had no idea.
And Nancy Mace is still out here actively campaigning to create some sort of a horrible circumstances to incite violence against Ilhan Omar. And you want to lecture me about Jimmy fucking Kimmel? Are you kidding me, Anna?
And I saw this happen with cable news too, where before we had any information about the suspect, before a suspect was even apprehended, every debate, every conversation was about left-wing ideology. Now, keep in mind, it does appear that Tyler Robinson's motive was he didn't like what Charlie Kirk had to say about transgender people, and he felt that Charlie Kirk was spreading hate. But this is before we even had those details.
We also don't know that he didn't like what Charlie was saying specifically about trans people. Those things are not correlated, miss. I'm a fucking stickler for the truth and accuracy.
About Tyler Robinson. And so it's just, can we wait? And more importantly, why is it more important to pin the blame on your political opponents as opposed to taking note of where we are as a country right now and how dangerous the situation really is as we move forward? I guess my point is rather than quelling violence, tension, the constant blame game, he kind of fed into it before we had the details about what Tyler Robinson actually believes.
So Anna, look, the part I agree with you on is, can we cool it? So to your point, I saw a poll today that more people believed that Tyler Robinson was on the right than the left. So until recently, obviously now it's all over the news, right? And that's just totally wrong, right? And why did they believe that? Because so many people immediately, and yes, obviously on the left, jumped out and said, "Oh, he was probably MAGA. He was a groyper. He was
wrong.
This."
You know why most people thought he was probably not a leftist? Because he was a really good fucking shot with a rifle. As many people love to point out, how many leftists do you know? How many DSA people do you know that can make a shot like this? Not very many. Yeah, he's a fucking person from Utah, deeply Mormon area, knows how to use a fucking weapon of war. Maybe that's why folks thought he was a right winger, not because of some stupid joke that Jimmy Kimmel said. Are you fucking kidding me?
Now we speculated. We speculated on the show. We gave you a range of options, right? I said people are saying this, and this, but we don't know yet, right? That's what I think is the right thing to do. So other people jumped in and said, "Oh, we're sure he's on the right." Okay, so that's a problem.
What about the fuckload of people that were like, it's civil war now. Now the time for talking is over. The left has made it clear it's time that they want to go to war. Yeah, let's fucking go after every single lefty. They're killers and psychopaths. They don't believe in crime. We have to do something. We have to take up arms and defend America as we know it. You don't have a single thing to say about any of those people, Cenk?
But Jimmy Kimmel said it as a quarter of a freaking joke. So now I think, to your point about shoe on the other foot, right? Okay, if Greg Gutfeld had made the similar joke, would I say, "That's it, Greg Gutfeld, I can't believe you made a joke. An inappropriate joke was a quarter incorrect statement. That's it, get Greg Gutfeld off the air." A, I wouldn't say it. B, no one would say it. C, there's absolutely no chance in the world that would happen. So now we're gonna take off everyone on the left, the center, anyone who isn't right wing, but the right wing gets different rules. So Gutfeld can say whatever he wants, everybody can say whatever they want on the right. And there was massive speculation. And Anna, let's be honest, were there right wing hosts, were there right wing media who were all saying from second one, leftist? Now they didn't know either. Now it turned out it was a leftist. And what my point is, I'm not.
We don't know if he's a leftist. We know that.
Thank you.
And
Mike,
by
hold
the
on,
way,
let me-
it's not just fucking media figures. It's literally the director of the FBI and fucking people in charge of the investigation that were saying that. Not just like Greg Gutfeld or whatever. It was literally like officials.
The governor of Utah.
Yeah, there was like a deranged left-wing ideology, brainwashed this kid. They were like even before the messages were out about the hatred and the trans stuff or whatever the fuck. Like, are you kidding me? It's crazy. But again, it is interesting to see Anna just so blatantly auditioning for her future in our new dystopian fucking media where you're not allowed to say anything that the dear leader doesn't approve of. That's what's happening. Like, Anna knows she's full of shit. She's dumb, but she's not this fucking dumb. She knows what she's saying is deeply fucking, ridiculous. And a terrible justification for obvious censorship, the likes of which even she would normally defend, but she realizes the crossroads she's at, and she wants to keep getting access and money in this new media landscape that's bearing down on us. One where you can't say anything that the dear leader doesn't approve of. And Anna's like, yep, sign me up. Let me audition here live on the fucking home of progressives.
Oh, 1,000,000%. And as people are pointing out, Brian Kilmeade of Fox News was coming out here saying that we should involuntarily euthanize the homeless. He was literally calling for mass extermination of the unhoused community. That guy still has a fucking job and he's still on air, but you guys want to bitch about Jimmy Kimmel?
Let me finish the point
Continue.
though,
Go
real
ahead.
quick. I'm not blaming the right wing for speculating that that the shooter was on the left, because I get it. Charlie Kirk was on the right, so it's normal to think that the shooter was on the left. As someone who opposes him so much, they'd want to shoot him, right? But But they didn't know either. So are we suspending all of them? Are we firing all of them? No, it's a double standard. And who's the double standard applied to? The enemies of the president. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't believe for a second that Nextstar's motivating factor here was that they were aggrieved by what Kimmel had to say. I actually think the fact that the FCC needs to approve the merger that they so desperately want is the bigger factor here. And I find that particularly gross.
I'm gonna bury that like halfway through the fucking article. Like, oh, and by the way, here's the real reason. But let me justify the fascist decision for like 5 minutes before I actually get to the real reason why. This is crazy.
Insane.
But, I guess my point is the left has always seen itself as.
My point is I hate the left, and so I'm going to justify anything that the right wing will celebrate me for.
People who operate at a higher standard than the right. They don't roll around in the mud the way the right wingers do. They don't jump the gun when it comes to these shootings and pin the blame unfairly on the other side. But I guess what I've seen with, partisans, like hyper partisans on the left who are like just constantly enraged by Donald Trump, the entirety of their politics seems to be, guided by that hatred for Donald Trump. And I get it.
That's because he's a fucking fascist that's destroying our country and upending the foundation of everything I fucking believe in, Anna.
But sometimes it clouds your mind and it leads to you making decisions under not the best judgment. So I think it was wrong for him to pin the blame.
Jimmy Kimmel just had fucking Trump derangement syndrome. That is literally the level of analysis we're now getting from Anna Kasparian. I'm not even kidding you guys. Like, that's where we're at. She just said that, yeah, Jimmy Kimmel, all these leftists, they just have Trump derangement syndrome. Like, really? That's your fucking analysis in this moment when we're witnessing the most fucking insane crackdown on the First Amendment and media, at least since the Bush era, if not my entire life? That's fucking insane.
On the right, again, I'm just going to repeat that. But I also think that what the Trump administration is doing in regard to retaliating against any reporting or press that he doesn't like is also a serious issue. I just don't know if the Jimmy Kimmel example is the best example.
I mean, he's catching feelings over a comic, man. If Joe Biden did this, it's, I demand every comic who criticizes me be taken off the air, otherwise I won't approve mergers. People would have said, what a tyrant. What a ridiculous, thin-skinned loser, right? Trump does it, and we're like, oh, well, I mean, he did get a quarter of a joke wrong. No, we would never apply that standard to Gutfeld. And so and Anna, to your point, I get it. Can you find someone in media that has a deeper loathing of the mainstream media than I do? And so their whole fake pretenses of like, oh, we are the truth, we are reality. Meanwhile, they're framing everything for status quo is great, politicians are great, corporations are great, etc. We've broken that down thousands of times on the Young Turks. but we have to have the same principles that apply to everyone. So that goes to your point. They should be more careful, especially if they're gonna talk down their nose at people. I totally agree with that, right? But at the same time, taking them off the air for this type of microscopic infraction, and we know why they're doing it, to placate an out of control president who hates freedom of speech. So no, I hate this system.
And shout out to Cenk for having the principles to come out here and say, I know I've been coddling the right. I know I just went on Tucker Carlson's show to rewrite the history of Charlie Kirk. I know I've been kissing every Republican's ass that'll have me. I just went and had beers with all of them. But when it comes to a serious assault on the First Amendment, which this is, Cenk is right on the money, I would have to say.
Yeah, and it would have been so easy for Anna just to offer this baseline fucking decent take also. Like, it's not that hard to just be like, yeah, we've been, saying we're in favor of free speech for all this time, and yeah, we are in favor of free speech. Anna can't even meet that low bar. She has to make up all these stupid fucking justifications in order to aid the propaganda of this fascist administration.
I think it's totally wrong.
All right, we got to take a break. We
No argument left. No fucking pushback. She just moves on.
have a mountain of stories that, as always, we're not going to get to. So I have no idea what we're going to do next. Stick around.
Total fucking bullshit. And she couldn't even argue with Cenk's really, well articulated point about Greg Gutfeld. Obviously, not only would you never see that happen, Greg Gutfeld getting fired for getting a quarter of a joke wrong about someone who recently died, but also if that did happen, I bet you $1 million fucking that Anna Kasparian would come out here and start screeching and fucking, whining and crying about how Greg Gutfeld was being censored. And even though we're on the left and even though we disagree with Greg Gutfeld, we have to stand up for him and shit. Anna would be the #1 fucking soldier. Yep. But nope, she just moved right along, didn't have anything to say to that. Because again, she's realizing what her next step is. It's to, take another step into the fucking right-wing ecosystem and to basically just be a good little girl for Donald Trump and say what he wants and fucking never insult Charlie Kirk on air and be honest about his fucking legacy and what he contributed to this country, which was the division that she decries the left for contributing to. That's the craziest thing about it. She wants to decry fucking Jimmy Kimmel for dividing the country. And right after endlessly fucking eulogizing Charlie Kirk. Are you kidding me?
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there.